Hello, today's your lucky day. I'm going to do a second tutorial, except this time it's going to be with the small steam engines instead of the large ones. So, we're going to start again, as I did with the large steam controller, but with a small steam controller. These particular ones are a lot easier and a lot faster to build. You don't get anywhere near the same power, but you can get exactly the same stuff out of them. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to select a small steam controller. So a controller is the very first device required for every single steam engine. Now a steam controller for a small one is a lot smaller and it looks very different. You do still end up with the same type of boilers, except smaller. They look a bit more like mini tubes. So I'm going to stick 3 mini tubes on the end of this thing. Even though it's decorative, I'm going to stick a firebox on the side just for some fun. Just to see if it actually does anything more than just look. You never know, you might get a flame effect. I haven't looked yet. So the next thing we're going to do is build a gearbox. So unlike the large system which requires a large gearbox, this would require a small gearbox. I suspect you can probably use a large one, but I personally wouldn't try it. They built it one way, stick with how they built it. So I've stuck a gearbox down. Now this gearbox looks a bit more like an actual gearbox. Instead of using a cased crank, I'm actually going to be using shafts and cranks properly this time. A little bit more anyway. I'm going to build some regular cranks, so I'm going to build 2 cranks. I'm going to build a single shaft and I'm going to stick a wheel on the end. So it's a similar system to before. But instead of it having 1 generator, I'm going to have 2. So I'm going to turn this to its side and turn this to its side. So I've now connected 2 generators to the end of this thing attached to a wheel. So I could potentially make a lot. So I'll just do it. I'll add 2 more. So we now have the ability to create 6 generators worth of electricity. Note how much less room this is using than a large one. Okay, so this is 3 in width. Now 3 in width is the minimum size for a boiler and pretty much everything else. Okay, so I've added only 2 points of shaft cranks. So we will require just 2 pistons on each side, because I'm going to do a 4 piston design. So similar to the other piston, you can see you have the spot which is off by 1 block. That is the spot that connects to the crank itself, so we make sure that connects like this. 1, 2, and because this is a small engine I'm actually going to have 4, so we're going to have 2 on this side too. So this has set itself up, it's ready to go. The only thing we don't have now is some steam, so let's add a little bit of steam into this thing. Okay, so we need some steam piping. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing I've done before, except I'm going to build with the changes in mind that I'm going to be expecting to have. So I'm actually going to have a 5-way attached here. This will become apparent in a minute. So we've got 2 to one side, 1 straight up. Okay, so from this point forwards we will go out by 2 meters on each side, like so. We're going to turn the corner, like so. I'm going to put a corner on the last piece, like so. A 3-way in between on each side, like so, and a single piece of pipe to connect it all up. Okay, so the reason I've left this one open, there's a good reason for this. So one is we can add another set of pistons across the top if I really wanted, but I'm not going to do that. And the other is actually I'm going to stick a pressure release vent in here, just in case. So it's right there. It's a pretty low engine, pretty small, pretty compact. Okay, so I have 46,900 engine power at this stage. This is not running, as you can see. So we can find out how much power this can generate. So all I require is some resources. So let's build some material storage. Let's have a couple of large ones of these. 1, 2. Okay, so the engine is now going to start cranking. Now because there's a number of generators on this, this will actually go rather slowly. And it probably won't increase much in its speed. So I'm just going to check it out as I go. Let's get rid of this and let's get us down to a single block. Okay, so the amount of pressure in here, so it's 2.4 meters cubed of boiling chamber. We've got a boiling pressure of 266 and a steam pipe pressure of 28. So in the large pistons, about 400 steam pressure in the pipes is probably what you would require to make this thing run nearly top speed. So you can see it's pretty much not going anywhere. And just the same as you can with the large ones, we can modify this from 25% to 100%. So we should be able to get 4 times the power out of this now. So if I look at the end one here, we can now see our steam pipe pressure is over 100. It's not going to go hugely over 100, so it'll be about a quarter of the power. So for this small engine, which has a bit of steam coming out, which is cool, we have... Okay, sorry about that, I was interrupted by a phone call. So anyway, this thing's been running in the time of the phone call, which is about 2 more minutes. It's not accelerated massively, but that's all to do with the fact that there's a load of generators at the end using up half the power, and because the boiler is not large enough for this particular engine to create masses of power. So we've gone up around 1,000 power for this small setup. So for the amount of space being used, it's not really worth going for this low level of power using small. You might as well go large. Use a very similar amount of space and generate thousands of power. It's useful anyway to have a look to see how it works. This particular boiler is rather small. My recommendation to you would be to try to have the same number of boilers as you have pistons. In this particular case I've only used 3 and I should have used 4. As you can see, the firebox plate is literally decorative. There is nothing you can do with it. It doesn't even have a fire picture, which I would think that would be quite nice if they actually had a flame picture in it. It's generating steam, so if I go right out, let's see. You can see it goes up quite high. It's quite cool. Right, so one of the reasons I chose to record this particular tutorial was also so I could turn the sound on. I hope you can hear that. So that is an engine going chuff chuff chuff. Now obviously the bigger engines make a bit louder noise. I have got it quite low volumes, so if you haven't heard it I'm sorry about that. Right, so how much power is being produced by these things? Well, I can't actually tell you, but it's certainly not as much as the larger one would be. Useful information. One last bit of information you can use here. Okay, so this is quite a small particular crankshaft setup, but you can mince your parts. So when I say mince your parts, let's go into the large gearbox and grab ourselves a wheel. Or can you? So, proven. Wheels do not turn on smaller crankshafts. Therefore you must use the correct gearing size. That will also apply to generators, pistons and everything else. So if I tried to stick a piston on here, I suspect it probably wouldn't work. But I'm going to give it a go. Let's see. Let's see, shall we? Okay, and there. So let's get rid of that, expand that, grab one of those, turn this, and let's just see what would happen if I try to stick that in there like this. Does that work? What do you think? No. So you must use the parts appropriate to the size. The size does make a difference to the speed of the vehicle, and you cannot use oversized parts for smaller bits. Personally, I believe that reason is for parts not breaking themselves off, because obviously a large part trying to turn a small part is going to explode it rather quickly. So, end of the tutorial. You can make a small engine, very similar to the large engine. You cannot mix your parts, and you must remember to put material storage on. Material storage is key to a steam engine. I have recently opened a Twitter account for the first time ever. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing with it. So if you want to follow me, which is one of the things you can do, I hear, please do. The link is on my profile on YouTube. Thank you.